What's going on YouTube? Mr. Ferguson back once again. Thank you guys so much for coming back to Central North Carolina for yet another lawn care video here in my lawn and also at the project lawn. We've been doing videos there now. We're getting back into the routine of things. Man, it's starting to really feel like the beginning of fall, the end of summer time frame. As I walk out here this morning, it is cooler. And looking at the forecast, we're going to dip down into the upper 50s, which is very cool here in North Carolina for, you know, August time frame. We're still normally in the high 80s, 90s, which we are going to climb back up to around 90 here soon. And I just unfortunately heard the weather guy say it doesn't, in order to have rain, you're going to have clouds, and it don't look like we're going to have clouds for at least the next 7 days or so. So it looks like for at least the current moment, we're here in North Carolina, we're going to be in a dry period, which of course, with what I'm about to talk about today, is not news that I wanted to hear. I was like, you got to be kidding me. But we serve a God that can do the impossible. So we're not going to let what the weatherman says today. We know how these things can change drastically the next day. But thank you so much for tuning in. We're talking fall overseeding, and I'm involved this year in more ways than one. We're doing my lawn with overseeding. We're doing the project lawn with overseeding. And so to start off this video, I want to share with you guys two things that I've purchased that one of them, I wish I would have purchased way back when I first started. And I finally bit the bullet and said I should have done this years ago, so I'm going to do it. And another one that I made a decision to make based off our last video. I was looking at reevaluating the situation of my lawn, what I'm seeing, and made a purchase based off that too. So let's go with the first one. So off camera here, I'll just kind of show you, not that it's a big deal, but off camera here, you can see down below, behind the chair, I don't know which chair's in the way, it looks like this one. You can see I've got one, that's the other one. But anyways, instead of moving all my chairs around, you see that I got one bale of peat moss over here. And you see that we're still dealing with some of the thatch. I've not run the dethatcher back here. We're going to talk about that here in a second of why that is. But I went to Lowe's and I did pick up 4 peat moss bales. I know that this stuff can run out of stock, so you may want to, if you plan on throwing peat moss down. Some people like it. If you're new to the channel, I don't like straw personally. Straw can have hayseed in it, barnyard grass, just different weeds that you don't want in your fescue. We talked about here recently about grass seed and how we don't want weed seeds in the grass seed. Well, if I'm spreading hay and straw all over, I'm kind of adding that in manually with the straw. Don't use straw. So if you're putting down straw in your lawn, you're really adding seeds from the straw into your ground. I don't like that. I don't recommend that. I like to use peat moss. I've tried it the very first year based on recommendations from the YouTubers I was watching when I first got started, and I love peat moss. Can peat moss be dangerous? Yes. If you pile it on super thick, it can block the sun rays from getting through the peat moss, and it can not germinate your seed. However, I've never had that be an issue. I spread it normally really thin because I don't buy enough. And the peat moss, the real benefit of it that I've seen is it always comes up at least a day before no peat moss. You do not have to have peat moss to grow grass. Not what I'm saying at all. However, in areas where you guys are commenting and asking me, Mr. Ferguson, I see your bank right there. How do you get grass there? These are the areas where I would definitely be putting the peat moss because it's going to hold moisture. That's what peat moss does. When you lay your seed down, you lay your starter fert down, you spray your RGS tenacity, whatever, then the last thing you do is come back with some peat moss. That peat moss that lays on top, when you water the seed, it holds that moisture, it sits on top of the seed. It keeps it moist for longer. And so when you don't have peat moss, the seed dries out with the air and the sun, it dries out, it needs watered again. Well, the peat moss holds the moisture on top, and that is why you see a difference. I always see the peat moss areas come up before I see the other areas. Point being, if you've got slopes, and we know that when we seed, a washout can mean heavy rain can wash all that away. We're very nervous about that, right? As planning, right? So those are the areas I would definitely be seeding, putting peat moss on, keeping it, walking out in the morning, walking out in the evening. We can be mindful of fungus, but you're keeping that seed moist so that as soon as it can germinate, we want that thing to start grabbing grabbing the ground as fast as possible so that when that heavy rain does come eventually, it doesn't wash it out, that it can begin to establish and germinate, and then you're good to go. I would want to do that with peat moss. So speaking of peat moss, this is what I purchased. I'll put it to the side over here. I finally got a peat moss compost roller. I was looking at, there's different ones on Amazon. I will link some below if you're interested, but peat moss is one of the dirtiest jobs. I'm in, year number 4 or 5 doing this lawn care stuff. Last year we did it at the church. I was spreading peat moss, a filthy mess. I mean, it's just disgusting. For 4 years, I've been doing it by hand, picking up the bag and dumping it, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm spoiling myself. I'm getting older. It save your back. That's one of the things I was like, you ain't joking. When you're out here doing all the other things, when you're spreading the seed, spreading the fert, spraying, you're in the heat, and now you got to take all this peat moss and you want to cover the ground properly. I finally gave in and bought the peat moss roller. So I should have done it a long time ago. I know some of you are going to comment, and you may be typing right now saying, Mr. Ferguson, you shouldn't have bought that. They rent them out at Home Depot. They rent them out at such and such and such. I know, I'm aware. I already looked up where can I rent one of these. My Home Depot said they had them. They don't. If I would have bought it back in the beginning, I would already have got my money's worth out of it, especially with the project lawn. So now that, maybe I'll rent mine out to people in the neighborhood. If you live near me and you need to borrow it, hey, for maybe $10, I'll be real generous and let people rent it out, and it'll pay for itself over time. I should have done it a long time ago. But what is the benefits of that for new folks? It opens up, you put your peat moss in, you latch it back, and you push it, and it will evenly distribute the peat moss everywhere. It'll be great for the project lawn. That's one of the reasons that I did buy it, because it's so thin out there. It needs peat moss everywhere. This will evenly distribute the peat moss everywhere. Not so much as handy for my lawn, because we don't need the peat moss everywhere. We need it in certain areas. So I may be loading it up with just a little bit, running it back and forth over an area, and it filters out debris and mess that's and plus you can use it for topsoil as well. That's another benefit of it. It's not just for peat moss. I can buy topsoil. I can come up here to my bank and be running the topsoil back and forth and add layers of topsoil to my lawn. So that's one thing that we've purchased that we should have done a long time ago. But anyways, that is that. So the next thing that I wanted to mention is, a lot of you had talked about you need to get this, get this dethatch rake. Well, I did buy a dethatch rake. It's not the groundskeeper one. It's not the one that was $100 and some bucks. This one was like 40. It's probably a cheaper version of it. I did go cheaper on this one. I didn't go cheap on the peat moss roller. I went for the sturdy one with the supporting brace and all that. And so I did go a little more expensive there, but with the groundskeeper rake, I did go for, there's like a $40 option one. I will link that in the description below for you if you're interested. But why did I purchase that? Well, I've been looking at that for many years as well, and finally said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to bite the bullet. I don't have them with me now because I just ordered them yesterday. But as soon as I get it, I'll show you specifically what I'm talking about. But here on the screen, you can see that I got both of them on Amazon. Where I live, Amazon comes pretty quickly. But why did we purchase this? Well, running that dethatcher in the front lawn, if you saw the last video, I don't have major areas of die-off. I have little pockets. And so like this area over here, the sun is right here, so I don't know how well. Yeah, it's not going to work out with the sun where it is today. But there's a pocket over here. This is more what I was describing and reevaluating my situation. Now, if I have a whole section that dies off, or if I'm killing off a whole section, well, absolutely, running that dethatcher back and forth, chopping up, loosening up, picking the thatch up to the top of the grass to be able to rake up and remove the dead. That's exactly what I've done in the past. It's exactly what I need to do. As my lawn has gotten more and more established, I don't need to do that same process as much. This is reevaluating our situation. So the groundskeeper rake is going to be better for me right now, because I have pockets of area where I still need to want to grab the dead, and maybe we can show you a little bit right here with this this area. You see, like right here, we've got an area right below the camera here. that's kind of in a shadow. The sun is messing us up here, but there's an area right here. This area right here has got a lot of dead. And so yes, I could run our Earthwise all the way back through here. I would be injuring a little bit this fescue, but we want to get this stuff. This is the stuff we want to get off right here. And so that groundkeeper rake, just running it in this little area, you know, in the evening, after dinner, before dinner, whatever, and just kind of slowly dragging in the woods. I don't really need to run the entire the machine over all of this. So I think you catch my drift there. So it's, again, we want to evaluate our situation year after year. Like, what am I dealing with? As you start to establish your lawn a little more, your equipment needs may change. You may need more equipment. You may want to back off and use different type of equipment. I think it's going to be very useful for these little areas. And not only that, for when you're reseeding, we know when we seed, sometimes our seed doesn't always take, and we have to reseed areas. This groundkeeper rake may be great. I'm going to play around with it to be able to scratch the ground, to open up the soil a little bit, to be able to reseed, put some peat moss on top, water, and let that the repair areas, if you will. So that's kind of the two things I wanted to share with you all in this quick Wednesday video as we're preparing. My goal is to, here soon, I am going to go ahead and start overseeding here in my lawn. I don't think I'm going to run the aerator, for the sole purpose of I want to see what happens if I don't run the aerator. So that's why me getting the dead off the ground is even more important to me, because I'm not going to be punching the core raider into the ground. I'll probably do that next year. But that's why the dethatching part, or removing the dead from the turf, is even more important. So I'll be doing that and see what happens there. And then we're going to be putting our seed down. We're going to be putting our peat moss down with our roller. We'll make sure that we cover these things, that so the moisture will stay on the seed and grow, and we'll begin to do that. And then we'll turn to the project lawn. It's a different story over there. We're not going to run a dethatcher there because we've only planted grass one time. There's more weeds than there is grass, so there's no need for that there. However, we are going to aerate that ground. It is very hard. We have been putting down Magical Plus. I can confirm that the church is now ordering the seed we've requested. They're ordering the starter fert that we requested from Jonathan Green, and we're getting the Magical Plus to, again, one more application to raise our pH. We want to get it in that acceptable range. That's huge. I think that's highly important. So we're going to do that, and we're going to stick to the basics out there. We're going to plant heavy. We're going to try to get as much growth as possible, but aerating is a crucial part. We're approaching the time to be able to overseed. And so when is that time? You want to check your soil temperatures. When your soil temperatures begin to drop down a little bit, and we're getting in the 70s, and we're trending lower, 75, or lowering down into the 70-degree soil temperature range, and we begin to lower, that's when the perfect time to be able to overseed. There's a large window to be able to plant your cool season lawn. My dad, he waits to the last minute. He'll do it in October. Most of the time when I'm already mowing for the second time by the time he begins to plant. It's just how he is, and it turns out just fine. He doesn't do it the way I do. But there's a large window, and so we'll keep you posted on his fungus going on as well. But that's kind of what's going on. It's a talking head video, but wanted to give you that information. We've got new equipment coming here soon. Groundskeeper will show you that, and hopefully, I'm hoping by Friday, if I can come out here this week off camera, I'm going to be using that dethatching rake, that groundskeeper rake, be removing some of the dead out of these areas here in the back lawn. I've done the side, I've done the front yard lawn with you guys, and I need to check this side in the back. Once we get this done, I'm pretty much going to just go ahead, begin to drop our seed, begin to drop our starter fert, get our peat moss on top. I am going to do a spray application of tenacity and RGS as well. And so we'll do that. We'll spray that down on top. Then we'll begin to water. And this is the time of year I have to tell my wife, we've got to keep the seed moist. You don't have to flood your lawn. Please don't flood your lawn, but you want to keep the seed moist. So 2 times a day, morning and afternoon. This is one of the times I break the rule. In the evening, I will run the sprinkler just to keep the seed moist overnight and things of that nature. So leave your comments below. Check out the description if you're interested in the rake, if you're interested in a peat moss roller to save save your back. I think it's going to be worth the purchase, especially if people need to rent it out from me, or sometimes I'll let people borrow it. It will pay for itself. But Mr. Kevin's got something soon that I think he said he wanted to share on the channel, so we may do that. But God bless you. Hopefully Friday we may be doing a overseeding big day video. It's not as big day because we're not doing the whole aerator and everything here on my property, but stay tuned for that soon. We'll show you the products and we'll begin to apply them here on camera, so check that out. If not Friday, it may be a Monday video when I do it this upcoming weekend. So God bless you. We'll see you in the next lawn care video.